Hey everybody, it's Chrissy Senpai Art again, and today I just kind of wanted to just ramble, topic video I guess. I'm recording this before I do the actual artwork, so I don't know when the artwork's gonna actually be done, but the artwork I'm doing is based off this image right here on the left of these like little fairy for your birth month or whatever, like birth fairy stones. In May's Lily of the Valley, which is oddly enough one of my favorite flowers besides hyacinths. But anyway, I came to just like, I've been thinking about this on my own a lot lately, and I just wanted to talk about, I guess, cringe culture and like super negativity that is now the internet scape. So when I was growing up on the internet, I've grown with the internet literally. I've had internet and known how to use the internet since I was a young lad, baby. I was around toddler age. I didn't know how to really read that well, like more than a toddler can read, but I knew how to type. And I could get to anywhere I wanted on the internet. It was mostly just video game sites. It's all I got on like Cartoon Network and PollyPocket.com or whatever and all that. And anyway, off of topic a little bit. But I'm 24. I'm a 24-year-old Southern woman. Hello. And I grew up on a way different internet than it is today. I guess wanted to, I wouldn't call it a rant, just like venting out my frustrations with how the internet has become. There's so much hate on the internet. I'm not talking about controversial topics or controversial people. That is a completely out of my league subject, and I don't ever plan to talk about anything controversial or controversial people. That is, again, completely, utterly not my style, and not something I want to give my opinions on the internet anyway. Because that's how you get people sending you death threats, no matter what your view is, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to talk about, specifically Twitter is the most infamous for this, and YouTube, I've noticed, hate culture and cringe culture. And when I talk about cringe culture, I'm talking about making fun of literal children for being children. Children like cringy things, what we consider cringy things as adults and older teenagers, which you'll find what you liked as an older teenager, probably cringy. Like, it's a bit different when you're calling yourself cringy. Like, look at this art from when I was a young teenager. I was like, when I was on DeviantArt, I was between my tweens and my late teens is when I really just kind of quit using it. As you can see, this would be considered cringe and would probably be in a compilation, but if you think about it, these pieces, some of them, are like over 10 years old, so like that doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense to me to make fun of that. But what I'm talking about is, honestly, at least on the topic of cringe culture, we'll get on the hate culture in a minute. Cringe culture, making fun of literal children. And again, there's so many controversial children on the internet, and that is not my place to talk about that. I don't really think it's other people's place to talk about it. That's the controversial opinion I will give, the only one. But what I'm talking about is making fun of children for being children. Children, like I said, love cringy stuff, what we think is cringy. They love to ship their ungodly looking OCs with main characters, and why do we hate them for it? I mean, we all kind of did it. Trust me, when I was growing up on DeviantArt, like growing up with DeviantArt, there were so many tracers, and I'll admit, I even traced over some official Naruto fan art. I don't think there's any evidence of it anywhere anymore. If I do find some traced work, I'll post it. I wasn't stealing it, I was using it as a base, quote-unquote, but obviously I know it's bad now that I'm older. I only did it when I was very young and really didn't have much talent. Again, you saw earlier, I'll post a recent picture of Daidara, or Daidara, however you say his name correctly, and like the first one I drew. You see the difference? One of those is very cringe, the other one actually looks kind of put together. And I don't understand why we hate kids for this. Because again, it's mostly children. Now, adults, I still really don't see why we should hate them for something that brings them joy. Like, who cares as long as it's not affecting you? I mean, if it's that big of a deal, just block them. They don't have to know you blocked them, you know what I mean? Again, this is maybe coming from someone who tries to be more positive, and the internet has become such a very negative landscape in the last few years. especially Twitter. God, I hate Twitter. That's why I barely use it. And I wish people would stop. I wish people would understand that they were like this too. They can say they weren't, but they were. We were all cringy children. And it's okay for kids to be cringy because they're finding themselves out, they're finding out what they like, and they're finding out it's kind of weird when you do that stuff, but like it's normal. Your hormones are raging. While I hate the show Big Mouth, it's a perfect example of how people are going through puberty in some ways. People are weird. Puberty's weird. All of it's weird and cringy. And it's fine. I don't think we should hate people for it. Again, completely just rambly, as always. I can't read off a script, I'm sorry. But I just wish we would just kind of step back from this whole cringe hate, because cringe is part of growing up. Like, I think, myself at least, my opinion is cringe is part of growing up. And I feel like we should just be nice to children. Like, oh god, being nice to children on the internet, what a sin. I feel like we should be nice to people on the internet in general, but that's a completely different problem. People, for some reason, feel like they can do anything they want because they can't be seen, even though you can be, like, tracked immediately now. Like, if someone wants to screw with you, they will. Which I think is another off-topic, something I don't really know how to talk about, but it upsets me that people do it to people who are not always, but generally innocent. But I'm just completely, like, flustered, I'm sorry. And the point of this is let kids be kids. Let kids and teenagers be kids, and teenagers let them be fucking weird. Because they're weird. We were all weird. Stop hating kids for being cringy. Because that's just them. That's how they are. Kids are unfiltered with how they feel about things. A perfect example, I was at work, and I was in the toy department hosting this little, like, Lego event thing that we had last year, not during COVID year. And there were so many kids who saw my Pikachu shirt and were just gushing and gushing. And they were just going on and going on. And I'm like, I don't understand why people hate people, like children, especially children, for being cringy. It's fine. They're passionate, they're unfiltered about their opinions on things. And I've always tried to be passionate and unfiltered about how I feel about things, and people think I'm pretty weird, like, because I am. Like, I love, like, Pokemon and things that are generally considered more toward younger audiences. Monster High dolls, I collect them. I am an avid gamer, I'm an avid artist, and for some reason that's also considered a childish thing. And it's just odd that we hate people so much for being kids, and just in general cringy, because adults can be cringy, teenagers can be cringy. I don't understand the hate. I just don't feel there's a need for it. Let people be what they want to be, as long as they're not hurting anybody, and it's not something illegal. It's fine, or at least in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion. If you didn't want to hear it, I would leave now if you haven't already left, because I just tend to ramble on about stuff. It's just so upsetting. I don't know if you can hear my voice. My voice is always, like, messed up half the time when I'm recording. There's just so much hate on the internet. And we'll talk about hate on the internet. God, there's so much hate on the internet. Like, why? Do you all have nothing better to do than hate people? And I feel like maybe it's because more people have gained access to the internet and regularly use it. I don't know. I'll try to leave, like, some graph versus when, like, how many people use the internet, like, 10-ish years ago versus now. But I feel like people are so much more hateful on the internet than they used to be. I don't know if it's because maybe I was just in a little bubble of positivity, which I feel like isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as it's, like, honest positivity and not fake. Like, but the internet has so much hate, and it's depressing. Like, it makes me kind of upset and not want to be in any internet community at this point. Like, for example, Twitter is an absolute shit show when it comes to negativity. And again, excluding controversial topics and people, it's just hateful. Like, I was, one time, I blocked this person because they followed me and then all they ever did was bitch on things that I tweeted. Like, talking about how in rural, I can't say it, rural country areas, schools that are in the country, There's a lot of kids whose parents never really taught them the value of an education. And I was saying this is so true, and they're like, oh no, they're just underprivileged and blah blah blah, and they just kept going on and going on. I'm like, you're in Canada, not the south of the United States where I'm from, where this topic is applied. I'm sure in Canada it's completely different. I don't live there, I don't know. But this person was so irritating. And I just blocked them. I usually try to not block people. I usually do like to converse as long as it's in a helpful, positive manner, I guess you could say. Just not rude, basically. I don't like to be rude towards people most of the time. And I just like, you don't understand because you grew up a lot more. I didn't grow up unprivileged, but a lot of people in my area grew up unprivileged with uneducated parents, with parents who, you know, hustled drugs, made drugs, didn't care if their kids got an education, always missed school, stuff like that. That's very common where I'm from. It wasn't uncommon for there to only be like 14 kids in the 30-kid class on a regular day. Like, it was very, very apparent that these people did not teach their kids value of an education. And like I said, this is just an example of people who only want to be negative on the internet. And like, I get it. Again, I've said it multiple times in this video, excluding controversial topics and people and stuff like that. That's a whole different shit show on its own. And I'm not saying we don't talk about those things. Like, I'm not talking about them because that's not my place to talk about them. Those have their own value over there, but I'm talking about just general internet activity. And I see all these like really mean cringe compilations and hateful like commentary channels on here, which weren't around when I was on YouTube growing up. I don't remember any of these existing. When I was growing up, the first like, I guess you consider nasty commentator on YouTube was Leafy's here. That was the first one that I remember, and I was graduating high school by the time he became popular. Like I said, I'm 24. I've been on YouTube since I was like 8 or 9 years old. Used to make these real cringy animations and shit. Off topic. I've been on here for a while, and I've seen YouTube go from the Shane Dawson, like the original Shane Dawson, the really offensive, inappropriate Shane Dawson, the Fred phase, when people would buy merchandise with Fred on it. Like, I went through that phase, which was like the initial YouTube, from like the boom of the video game and the beauty gurus of YouTube, to the boom of artists, and then now we're just here with all these negative hate channels, commentary channels, which commentary channels aren't necessarily negative, but there's a lot of them that are. I'm not talking about every single one of them here. Not trying to group them all, but there are a lot of negative ones. And just these like cringe compilation channels that, for example, take animation memes from children who are still learning how to even draw. That doesn't mean they're not allowed to animate just because they can't draw well, in your opinion, you know what I mean? And I just feel like it's fueling this fire that we don't need on here anymore. I feel like, I guess because negativity is so openly accepted now, that's why the internet has turned into the way that it has. Like, people are so hateful on here, like, just in general, especially like I said, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all these sites have these problems where people are just hateful. Like, I couldn't imagine telling someone to go, like, off themselves. I've never been like that. I've never said somebody to go off themselves. And I'm completely bewildered why this has become the norm. And again, this is just a rant video. I wouldn't call it a rant. This is just a video expressing my feelings because I needed to get it out, because I've been thinking about it the last few days, how much we hate on beginner artists, animators, just beginners in general in life and in whatever hobby they're doing. It's okay to be bad when you start a hobby. It's not expected for you to end up with something perfect. Like, I can't. I cannot. And I miss the old days of the internet, I guess. The old days, like, that wasn't really even, it was about only 10 years ago, when there wasn't regular negativity on the internet. But I hope you all enjoyed the Speedpaint and me rambling about just being upset, I guess, as to why the internet has become what it has. I hope, you all take some of this to heart, to maybe think about what you say a little bit before you say it, because I feel like, personally, It's like that saying, your true self comes out when you're drunk. Your true self comes out when you're on the internet, I think. And when you say these things on the internet, that really shows a lot about who you are internally. And I don't think people necessarily think they're being pieces of shit. But when, again, you're saying these things to people who have most of the time done nothing that either directly affects you or a group of people, again, some of these are completely different topics that I can't touch on because I don't know much about them myself, or I just don't have the ability, I guess, to talk about these professionally, because obviously I can't talk professionally, like, look at this video. I just feel like the internet, people need to, like, sit back, chill out, look at themselves and be like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I saying these things to people? Like, I don't know, I would never say anything that I wouldn't say to my mom, and I cuss in front of my mom. We cuss all the time, like, together. It cuss like sailors, you could say. And I would never say something to someone online that I would not say to my mother, or my father, or whatever figure of approval or close figure that you love, whatever that may be for you. And I just feel like we all need to step back and chill. Just chill the fuck out, because there's so much more stuff in life to worry about than somebody on the internet that you'll never meet, who, again, doesn't directly affect you or anybody in a group of people or anybody you know. I'm sure somebody's going to take this whole video completely out of context, but that's fine. I expect that to happen because this whole video is literally talking about people doing that. But I hope you have a good day. Be more positive and be a little nicer. And as someone who suffers from pretty severe depression, because brain baby fucks up my brain a little bit, this whole excuse train of why you're being an asshole, it gives you a reason but not an excuse, if that makes sense. Stay cool, stay positive, don't be a douche. Goodbye.